And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Keyword, they were my roommates. That is, until I came back from a weekend out and there was a mysterious stain left on my pillow. They covered up the smoke detector illegally in our room with a plastic bag so that they could cook illegally. They reported a bug problem but didn't alert me of it first. And oh, they threatened to sue me. But y'all haven't even heard about that one. Sup, it's Sydney, and if you're new here and haven't heard any of my freshman year roommate horror stories, you're probably like, can this girl chill? Well, no I cannot.
What up? I'm Jared, I'm 19.
During my freshman year at Penn State University, I decided to go random with my roommate and was randomly assigned literally the worst person ever. I'm not doing this video to rehash anything. My roommates and I have just come to an agreement where we just kind of hate each other, but we never see each other and we've moved on with our lives. And I'm gonna be a junior in like a month, so I think it's time that we just close this chapter of the book. I know I've talked for like 15 years, but I do have to do this quick disclaimer because of reasons that will become more prevalent to you as this video goes on. This is all alleged information. It is from my perspective, it is my opinion, baby. Ex-roommates, if you're watching this is just for laughs. I don't mean to offend you. I know it probably won't be that funny to you, but it also wasn't that funny for me to actually live through whenever I was living with you guys for 6 months, so let's just call it even. Honestly, y'all are half the reason my channel took off, so thanks. Story number 1. December 13th, 2018. One day before my calculus final. Bum bum dun dun dun. 'Twas the night before my calc final, and all through the dorm, not a creature was stirring, just my brain creating the perfect storm of how I was probably gonna fail. All of my friends had left campus except for Emily and I because our freaking calc final was Friday at 8 a.m. We studied our butts off for that calc exam. And by we, I mostly mean me. Emily kind of already had that thing in the bag because she's actually talented with numbers, and when I see a number, my mind just goes. So basically what I'm saying is, through that entire week for like 40 hours, Emily just taught me everything that I should have learned throughout the entire semester, but I didn't comprehend properly. So it's like 9 p.m. the night before this calc final, and I'm about to get ready for bed so that I can pretend to fall asleep while I actually just lay there and think about my inevitable doom the next day. When my roommate comes in and is like, "Hey," and I was like, hi, considering we probably hadn't spoken a word to each other in like 3 weeks, at least. And she very politely asks me if I can watch her and her other friend / my other roommate who was in the other rooms fish. And normally I would have no problem with this whatsoever. I love fish. At that point I had a fish of my own named Atticus, who is now dead. However, because I was leaving the next day for winter break, this would mean that I would have to transport their 2 fish and my own fish to my house somehow with like very little notice, and then watch them for 3 weeks and then transport them all back to campus. I'm kind of contemplating that fact for a little bit, but then I realized because they live overseas, my options are watch these 2 fish or watch them die over the 3 weeks that they wouldn't be able to get food. So of course I say yes, and then she's like, okay, great, and then I ask her for the instructions for taking care of her fish because I know that they have 2 betta fish, and betta fish can be a little bit finicky and they're also really aggressive, so I can't keep them in the same tank because they'll literally beat each other up and then eat each other. She then gets the fish from their separate tanks and brings them out to the lobby area of our dorm room, and then she takes out the food and is like, I feed them one of these little pellets whenever. And then she kind of explains to me that they don't really have an exact schedule for feeding and that they actually left the fish over Thanksgiving break for a whole week by themselves without feeding them anything, and they were fine. And mind you, the food that she gave me to feed these fish was meant for koi fish, and these were itty bitty betta fish. One of the little pellets was probably half of their body weight. So I was a little bit confused, but we weren't really getting anywhere, so I was just like, okay, well, how much do you change their water? Because with my fish, I did about a 75% water change each week, meaning that I left 25% of the dirty water so that it would better incorporate with the new water. And she looked at me like, huh? From that point on, I pretty much understood that I was gonna get no answers when it came to taking care of those fish, so I was just gonna try my best, and then if they were alive at the end of the 3 weeks, they were alive. And if they were not, they wouldn't have been anyways because they would have been left in the dorm without food for a month. After our conversation, I did the natural thing and I texted my mom in a panic. So I get my mom to arrange for my grandma to come as well so that we can more easily transport 3 fish all the way back to my house. And honestly, it was looking up in the beginning. I actually got an A on my calc final, somehow, still don't know how I pulled that off. We successfully transported all 3 fish home, we successfully cared for them over the break, and once again, we successfully brought them back to school and returned them to their owners. Yay! Amazing! We love fishies! Until they
freaking killed them.
I reluctantly returned these 2 fish back to their rightful owners, even though I sincerely thought about how they would probably be under better care if I just kept them at my house, but I knew that wasn't my place to interject, so I went against my will and I gave them back, and then a week later, they died. And this wouldn't have been as big of a deal if I didn't see my roommates pouring out the water of their fish tanks at the same time a week after I brought them back. And I don't know for sure that they killed those fish, but I have a pretty strong feeling that they realized they couldn't take care of them anymore and they just dumped the water out. Unless they both happened to die like on the same day. Even though it's just a fish, it's still a pet. So if you plan on getting a pet, please do your research. Did it upset me very much? Absolutely, but I still felt this need in my brain to prove to people that I could live with people that I didn't agree with, that I could live with people who disrupted my life and I could still get through it and be good. But yeah, after this next story, I just couldn't do it anymore. Story number 2. Fast forward to February, and I didn't really talk with my roommates, so nothing really escalated, but also nothing really got better. And that's when I came home from class one day and saw my roommate taking some sort of medication. Normally this wouldn't flag anything in my head, except I hadn't seen this medication before, and then she kind of just left after taking it and her mannerisms were so odd. I saw the label from my side of the room and I did not like what I saw. I don't feel the need to get into the logistics of what it was because I feel like that's really personal and no one needs to know, and I didn't end up getting it anyways, but it was something that was highly contagious and it was something that you were supposed to tell others if you got it. So basically, after discovering this information, I started doing research on my computer and freaked the f out because 1, I'm super squeamish. 2, she didn't inform me of this condition, and from what I've researched, you should be telling everyone you're living with that you have this condition. And 3, because my mom was in freaking Texas and I had had enough. I call my mom up and I'm like, but I know it was kind of personal, I probably shouldn't have been looking over at the label, but I just got really nervous and I just feel bad because I feel like everyone's gonna think I'm high maintenance if I move, and I'm not trying to be high maintenance, I'm just kind of sick of it and I get really stressed when I have to go back into my room. Shut up, if you don't move, I'm not paying your housing. So I moved! I don't really think it's anyone's place to comment on someone's health, but I was just kind of upset that I wasn't being informed because it was something that could potentially affect me. And I think that was just the breaking point. Plus my mom was seriously like, why are we paying thousands of dollars for you to get anxious when you have to walk into your own room? And I was like, tea, sis. That day, I wrote up a fine little email to the housing department. I was just like, yo, me and my roommates don't really get along. We tried to solve it in a civil way, but it just wasn't going, and I get really stressed when I go into my room. And they responded a few hours later and were like, okay, you can move. Excuse me, what? You're telling me it was that easy and I could have done this months ago? The moral of story number 2 really has nothing to do with my roommates other than if you are unhappy in a situation, you don't have to try and prove yourself to anyone, just seek a solution. And I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. I moved out and lived the rest of the semester happily ever after. Or so I thought. Story number 3. I had lived with my new roommate for a few months by this point. I had had no contact with my other roommates. We were honestly just frickin' vibing. The last night that I was supposed to be in the dorms ever, I get a text from none other than my ex-roommates. The text reads, "I saw your video." Uh-oh. So what does my sarcastic ass do? I liked the message. Turns out, she didn't really like that response. So she hit me back with, "Can you take responsibility for your words?"
Can I take responsibility?
Girl, I was born to take responsibility. I was born for confrontation. I am what balances out Jeffree Star's 10-minute long apology that had literally no apology in it, okay? I have a little bit of a feisty personality, but instead of just going straight for that response and like going off, I decided, what would a calm adult do? I kind of took a step back and reflected for a little bit, and I was like, you know what did I do wrong here? Was it unnecessary to share these dramatic roommate stories with my YouTube audience? Sure. But honestly, I thought that people could learn from my negative experience, and I really did try to do it in the best way possible by keeping my roommates' identities completely anonymous. And I did try and speak and talk these things out with my roommate, but unfortunately, my voice wasn't heard. So this was my way of ranting my feelings, and although it is a bit impractical and very strange, ultimately I felt like, you know what? It was okay. So I simply read the message and did not respond. Then I look and find a cute little comment on one of my videos that says, "See you in court. You are done." My roommate and her friends commented on my video and were kind of threatening me with legal action. Teehee, relatable. I think they were trying to quote-unquote sue me through my YouTube comments, which just, wait, what? For defamation. And from my understanding of the law, if I say it's from my own perspective, I'm good. And besides, what college student has the money to like sue someone else? Because not me. But if she does end up following through like a year later, I really hope this video makes enough AdSense revenue that it would cover my court fees, because yikes. According to the internet, the most reliable source ever, the statement must be false for it to qualify as defamation. And because this is from my perspective, to me, this is all true. Also, the statement must be made by any person other than the victim to someone other than the victim, which I have done, but I've kept the victim completely anonymous so none of you would know and so that it wouldn't ruin their reputation. So therefore, still not defamation. Still not defamation, I think. And the statement must have caused damage in some form. And although it may have hurt their feelings, and actually that does make me feel kind of mean, but I kept them anonymous, so technically the damage wasn't done to them. It was done to the idea of them. No one said you had to be nice to follow the law, okay? Quit making me rethink my life decisions. The more I speak, the more I'm like, wow, I'm kind of a terrible person. If Legally Blonde taught me anything other than men are trash, it is that I am probably good from a lawsuit perspective. That is the end of this story, and also my roommate drama saga, if you will. Hopefully, unless they actually go through with the lawsuit. In that case, frick. I hope you enjoyed, and ultimately I hope you learned something from the video, because that's the whole reason for me making this. I promise I'm not trying to be spiteful, and although I am very sarcastic and sometimes come off a little spiteful, that's not my intention at all, and seriously, we're completely fine. It was an amicable breakup, if you will. If you want to hear more about my college life, the best way to do that is to 1, subscribe to this channel, and 2, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I love you all so much, and please remember that everything that I said is alleged. It's just my opinion. Okay? Okay. Don't sue me, please.